SportsLine continues here on News Channel 5 Plus. SEC Media Days wrapped up last week. No surprise. Defending national champion Georgia, defending national runner-up Alabama, picked as the two division champs. Alabama tabbed as the preseason favorite to win the SEC championship. Alabama, of course, going to be almost certainly number one and the huge favorite to win the national title this year after coming oh so close and then falling to Georgia in that championship game after beating Georgia in the SEC championship game just about a month prior last winter. But the rest of the SEC, there are some contenders there. Texas A&M in the West looks good. I think that's going to be a very competitive Western Division. I mean, Auburn is picked 7th. I don't think they're going to be terrible by any means, but Arkansas is better. Ole Miss is good. LSU has talent, as always. Mississippi State looks to have a good team this year, so the West looks good. East, we'll see. Florida, new coach, but you're dealing with that Georgia team, obviously, Kentucky with Will Levis at quarterback, and Tennessee, Josh Heupel's team, which got to 7 wins last year, got a berth in the Music City Bowl. And you bring back Hendon Hooker at quarterback. You bring back that offense that was so explosive last year for Josh Heupel and company. Can the defense take a step forward? Can Tennessee take a step forward? The Vols were picked 3rd in the SEC East. Can they prove those people wrong? Can they be better than that? Can they beat Kentucky? Can they contend with Georgia? We will find out, but certainly there is a level of confidence on Rocky Top after what happened last year in year 1 with Josh Heupel, and they come into fall camp starting next week with significant excitement about their prospects in 2022.
Okay, coach is ready for questions. We'll start here on the second row on the left.
Coach Heupel, Josh Rowe, WTBC in Chattanooga. Can you compare how you feel right now compared to where you were last year at Media Days after the season you had last year?
Yeah, just another year into it. It's so different with your players. A complete understanding what it's going to look like for 80% of your roster. What game days are going to look like, what training camp's going to look like, your staff. The continuity that we were able to keep with our staff. Really, everybody coming back, old and young coaches and support staff, and that's really changed the way that we've worked from the time that we got back in January. Sure, we redefined everything, but man, it was really about our daily work habits and how we grow immediately from the time that we got foot back on campus, instead of building relationships with new people. And for us, really excited about what we've done in the first 3 quarters of our off season. Excited about training camp. I think we have a great understanding of who we are, what we're about, and how we want to play in all 3 phases of the game. Now it's about competing and growing as we get into training camp.
Coach, right side, back row.
Michael Cobble, WBRZ TV in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I know you faced the Tigers before. Just curious, have you ever played at or coached at Tiger Stadium, and your thoughts with that matchup?
We did when I was at the University of Missouri tonight that I don't want to go back to, but excited about that. The great thing and the reason you want to coach and the reason you want to play inside of this league is you get an opportunity to go play the best, and certainly that's a great program and a great avenue or venue to play in. It's one that when we get to that point in our season, and our coaches and players will be extremely excited about.
On the aisle, third row.
Hey, Coach.
I gotcha.
Sweet. Ben Bobick, Local 3 in Chattanooga. You preach a lot about culture and accountability. What's changed from this culture from year 1 to 2 that has this team excited and you heading into year 2?
Yeah, our sense of accountability at each point, each cross section of the off season, so dramatically different than where we were the year before, and dramatically different than even where we were when we finished the season. Leadership is so different each Wednesday during our off season before we got to spring ball. It was team day, it was leadership, it was communication, not just from the leaders that you guys know their names, but from everybody inside of our program, from the young guys inside of our program. And because of that, how we practice during the course of spring ball was completely different. Much more ownership from within by our players. And championship seasons, great seasons happen because of the leadership and the work habits and the accountability factor from within the locker room. It doesn't happen because your coaching staff is different. It happens because of what's inside that locker room. And I love the growth that we've had, and excited about where we're at, but where we got to get to and how we're going to get there.
On the aisle, back row.
Hey, Coach Page with WVLT. You talked about the 3 guys you brought here today contributing to a lot of success within this team. What specifically have they done to strengthen this program?
Yeah, I think, if you just looked at 3 of them all together, the first thing that I would grab is their leadership, right? Truly feeling their energy, their presence, their focus, their intentionality, how we're going to work. They're not just great teammates, they're great leaders, and they force guys around them to raise their level of what they're doing. That would be number 1. Number 2 would just be their consistent work habits and how different they are. For Trey in particular, different than he was a year ago. For Cedric, he's continued to heighten that journey. For Handon, the purposefulness of how he's worked. Very intentional in the morning, being in there and studying offensive football defenses, just scheme, structure, and how we need to attack it, understanding it from a defensive side of perspective, and then fundamentally how much he's grown.
Left side, 4th row.
Coach Chris Yao, Main Street Media. Last season, several transfer players made a big impact for your team. You have a couple of guys in the secondary who have transferred in. What kind of impact do you feel like they will have on that particular secondary?
Yeah, I think as a program, we're deeper than we were a year ago. Earlier today, you mentioned, we had 69 scholarship players as we embarked on, training camp a year ago. And most people last year were probably at 90, closer to 95 with 6-year seniors. And we were thin. We are deeper. We're not as deep as we need to be, but we are deeper. The transfers that have come in, I think they're in a position, physically and mentally, when we start training camp to push and to compete for playing time, for jobs, and on defense, on special teams. I think there's greater depth, in particular on the defensive side of the football in our secondary, at the second level linebackers. And we have good competition that needs to take place on the first line with our defensive line too. And that's one of the places that we got to grow. We got to be able to affect the quarterback more on 3rd and long situations, not with pressure, although we're going to need that at times too, but just with our front 4 and being able to win some of those one-on-one battles.
Front row on the right.
Anthony Patterson with the Atlanta Boys. With Hendon, what has impressed you since last season when you first came in until now about him? And what do you feel is the next step for him to just, take that next step?
Yeah, I think for him, there's a lot of, key words that you could throw out there. But to me, as much as anything, is his ability to handle every situation that's thrown at him. Positive, negative, adverse situations. It doesn't matter. He keeps coming back and he gets better from every one of those situations. And a young man that's gained so much in confidence. I think in, what we do offensively, how we coach him, how we help build them as players and as people. Has had a positive impact on his performance on the field, but he's had a huge part of that in soaking those things up and really growing over the last 18 months, and so excited about his future and what he's done in the offseason to become a better player and a better leader.
Front row, Coach.
Good morning, Coach. AP Stidham, WHEP, Foley, Alabama. Coach, I wanted to ask you about Brew McCoy and how he's adapting to your system, and then what do you see for his future? Yeah,
a young man that we're excited to have in our program. He's handled himself with such poise, grace, great competitive nature since he's come into our program, and been going about his work habits the right way, and been really consistent. Extremely gifted physically, big, strong, ability to make competitive catches out on the perimeter. His best football is still a long ways ahead of him, and I say that as a positive, and really excited about getting him on the grass here as we get going in training camp. A guy that didn't have spring ball is just getting integrated into what we're doing offensively. With like some of the transfers that we had a year ago on offense, there's a growth process to understanding how we play. He's got to soak those things up and be able to handle the tempo in particular in a really positive way here early as we get going.
Right side, 3rd row.
Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports, Coach, with Trayvon making sort of I don't want to say a jump in terms of leadership, but this offseason, you've kind of seen comparisons of what he's done to what Theo did last year, and do you hope that has the same kind of impact on the field and fall?
Yes, and I don't. Those are lofty expectations too. Theo was a great player for us a year ago. Excuse me, and played at such an elite level. But Theo's a sixth-year guy that hadn't played a lot of football, really only special teams. You know, his ability to understand every position on defense, not just the secondary, but every position on defense, allowed him to play extremely fast and physical and anticipate and have his eyes in the right spot. It led to him playing at a really high level, which is why he got drafted and why he's going to have a great career in the NFL. I firmly believe that. But you know, who he was off the field and how he approached going into our building every single day is why he made those strides. And Trey, I think after, you know, the season, coming back, kind of reset, re-looked, and saw what happened with Theo and said, man, I know that there's more out there for me. I'm really proud of what Trey's done, man. Physically, you've seen him. He looks completely different. His movement on the football field is different because of how he's worked, and his best football is ahead of him. We have high expectations for him this fall.
Left side, third row.
Hey, Coach. Kellyanne Stitz, WATE. How do you measure growth from year 1 to year 2, and what sort of jump do you hope the team makes from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, you measure it in the growth, the standards that you have inside of your building. You measure that daily, weekly with your players. You put that in front of them. Physically, they can see the strides that they've made and how they've grown. But each phase, it's about each day and winning the day, winning the set, winning the rep. But that's true in everything that you're doing. It's your meals, it's your training room, it's class. And I'm really proud. Like, you know, the last 3 semesters, our team GPA has gone up every semester. Their best 3 semesters in the history of Tennessee football. How we're doing off the field, those things show up in what you do on the field too, and our players have bought into that. You know, wins, losses, I don't know. We got high expectations for this season. We want to have the best brotherhood in college football, continuing to build that culture, and go out and compete each and every week.
On the aisle, back row.
Hey, Coach. Jamal Kennedy, WSPA 12 News in Montgomery. I want to ask you about Jordan Thomas, an incoming freshman. He's coming in. He came out of high school as a quarterback, and now you're switching him over to the defensive side of the ball. Just curious to know, your hopes for him and where you want to see him make strides here in his first year at Tennessee.
Yeah, Jordan's done a little bit of everything. Part of what he did on the offense side of the ball is why you want him. He's smart. He's competitive. He cares. Man, he's grown during the course of the summer. He's very, very, very competitive. First week install, I think he felt a little bit overwhelmed. Man, he felt really good after week 2. He came up to me. He's going to make a point that I know that he had a great week. I love his energy and how he works as a young guy. We have high expectations for him to become a great player, but a great leader inside of our program too.
Left side.
Coach Reggie Chapman, 11 Live TV here in Atlanta. A couple questions. One, you obviously won a national championship. I'm wondering, when you played against Georgia, was there something that you saw maybe that kind of related between that team and maybe the team that you were on back in the day, and also
between Georgia? Just Georgia's team and
the championship aspect of it, between what you had back in 2000, and I'm also wondering, I think at Missouri they played at Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to play in Athens. What's it going to be like?
We played both. Played at Missouri. Threw a late pick, got beat late 4th down, and then I still remember that one. And then in Athens, we weren't able to sustain things offensively in the second half to keep up with them. Great program, great players. Their championship team from a year ago had a lot more draft picks than the team that I played on, certainly in the first couple of years after we won that. They're talented, they're tough, they're competitive. They had winning attributes, man. And, those are things that we're trying to build inside of our program, and excited about what we've done up until this point. That'll be a great venue for college football. It is. And when we get to that point in the season, it's one that our staff and our players are going to be excited about playing.
Last 2 questions. I'll be on the back row here. First on the aisle.
You talked earlier about some of your top guys kind of being no names last season. Now they're on the watch list for a lot of awards. What has it been like, and how rewarding is it to see their hard work paying off, and not only you notice, but the nation does?
It's the great thing, and it's one of the toughest things about college football, right? You don't have them on a long-term contract where you got them for a decade. They're out the door after 4 years, but it's a great thing too. So much opportunity, and for the guys that are here, look at their journey from where they were a year ago to where they are now, and excited about that. Really proud of him too, and it's a great thing. You know, college football to me is such a unique sport and the greatest sport that we have. Just 18 to 22-year-olds going through that maturation process, learning how to become the person that they want to be and become the player too. And it's a great journey and one that you know, I don't take for granted that I get a chance to be a part of, and excited about who's next, right? You know, there's names that I maybe haven't talked about today or that you guys don't know. They're going to step up and have great seasons and play critical roles in our success.
Final question on the end.
Dan Peck, ESPN 106.7 in Auburn. Coach, you're one of several SEC head coaches that jumped from the group of 5 to the SEC. Your observations on the biggest differences between coaching in the group of 5 and coaching in this conference, and maybe some things that are similar as well.
You want to coach in this conference because it's college football as good as it gets. Most competitive league in all of college sports. You get to coach against the best. You get to play against the best. And you got to reset every single Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, man. And once you get into the season, man, it's coming at you fast and furious. And that's the chase, the journey, the competitive arena that you want to be in. That's why players come to Tennessee. They want to play in front of 100,000+ people. They want to feel that energy, 40,000 people when they get off the bus and take the journey down Peyton Manning Way. They want to be a part of those things, and there's nothing more invigorating, challenging, and nothing gives you more energy than those opportunities, and it's what you wake up for every day.
Coach, thank you very much. Outstanding.